Hi everyone, my name is Cavotta. I'm a chemistry teacher up in upstate New York. I'm going to talk about how I developed this chemistry in our foods project throughout this STEM course. So a little bit of background information. I teach chemistry, so I chose my chemical bonding unit that falls in the middle of my chemistry curriculum. My audience is Regents chemistry students, which is typically sophomores, juniors, and seniors. The purpose of this unit is for students to understand the properties of electrons and how those properties then affect the types of compounds in chemical reactions and in nature. The value of this unit as a whole, as well as the project, the chemistry in our foods project that they will complete at the end of the unit, is that students will work collaboratively in a group and learn how chemical bonding and structures relate to the nutrition and shelf life of the food that we eat every day. The goal of the project that they will complete at the very end of the unit is to create a final presentation using the technology Adobe Spark that they will be then rated on by their peers, as well as myself and the other science faculty and the administrators. The top voted presentation will then be displayed throughout the high school hallways. So some nice motivation in there for my students to work hard and create a well organized and planned final project for this chemical bonding unit. The steps I took to create this final project, I started first with my curriculum map. That starts with I follow the New York State standards for the physical chemistry course. I then used backward design, so I started with the final project that I wanted students to complete, just an idea, and then I worked backwards from there, developing my whole entire unit. Then for this course specifically, we had to then develop 3 specific lessons. So I actually developed all of my lessons on my own and then chose the top 3 that would kind of provide the best insight for how students will go about completing this unit. I then collected resources for each of the lesson plans that I would not only develop for this course, but also for the entire unit. I pulled in different types of resources to make sure that students were using as many technology resources as possible, but also keeping in mind the goals of each lesson plan and not just getting caught up in using technology just to use technology. I then pulled from each lesson to then elaborate on my final project, which is our end goal of this unit. It was a summative assessment where students would create this chemistry in our foods project. And from that, I collected resources specifically for the final project and developed a really elaborate rubric that I would actually give my students prior to them starting the project, so they knew the expectations moving into working on the project. I then would I didn't do this for this course, but if I were to put this into my class, which I plan on doing when I come to this unit in my curriculum, I would put this plan into action, and then I would receive feedback from not only my students, but also colleagues and my peers. So along the way, as I created this plan and this project and these lessons, I received feedback from my peers in the STEM class. I would do the same if I were to, which I will, actually implement this unit plan and this project into my actual class of students. I will look to receive feedback from my students as well as my colleagues at my school. The purpose of this project is a large summative assessment, so it will weigh heavily into their overall grade for whatever quarter this unit is in play for. They'll work in groups to compile research, and again, the ultimate goal is to create a final presentation using Adobe Spark. I will have them judged by their classmates, myself, other science classes and teachers, as well as the administrator, to give them kind of more incentive to work hard on this project. The students will be assessed using the elaborate rubrics that I've created, that I've shared on my website. And using those rubrics, they will receive a grade out of a total points system. Some resources I used for this project are Google Meets breakout rooms, since I am in a hybrid situation this year. I used Padlet question boards to get them started in the first lesson. In the second lesson, they'll complete a PhET simulation, since hands-on activities is a little tricky this year with the pandemic. And then I also provided many resources for them to use using a Padlet board as well. Padlet board was the main resource used for my lessons leading up to the final project, as well as I use Google Suites to provide all of my students with these resources. Then for the final project, I have an example here of a poster that they could create that I created myself that I would give to my students before they started the project. This is a poster, but the students will use Adobe Spark to create this final presentation to show what they know about chemical bonds and how electrons work in our chemical bonds. Students will be working in groups, and each student will get to pick a favorite food or a food they're interested in that they will further study as a group, and then they will create a poster, as I have here, to display that information and their research. I'm giving them freedom to decide how they want to display all of their research that they've collected over the course of this project. I have an example of a poster here. Adobe Spark has lots of resources and templates that they can use, as well as they can start from scratch if they would like to as well. So that's the final project, the end goal that we're kind of working towards in this unit. I have lots of resources available on my website that I've developed over the course of this semester. It talks a little bit more about the unit plan in depth with all of the units, with all of the lessons, not just the 3 units that I had to develop for this class. But then there are pages for each lesson. And then as well as project guidelines for further reference, including the 3 rubrics I developed for this project, and the rubric students will complete at the end on their peers. So that is my Chemistry of Foods project.